thriving, beautiful business I love. And welcome. There's plants. What else would you like me to say?
What's the inspiration behind the plants?
Well, when I started growing flowers, I wanted plants, herbs, things I could use in the house. And then I also found that even the beauty the propagating and the selling of plants, definitely during COVID, because I had all this time on my hand, and then I spent all this time creating such a beautiful space of my house, and then people started asking me, like, where can I get this, where can I get this? And I'm like, wait a minute, I make that, I recycle, I can provide it for you at also a basic minimum of a fee, so this is really, yeah, it blew up during COVID. Yeah.
This is basically your bounce back for COVID.
It is my bounce back for COVID, from COVID.
Yeah.
This all, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's been great though.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, it's here.
Yeah. We go to her. Who? I don't know who her. Okay. Oh, her. Oh, her. Any. Okay. Hey. Is that okay? Okay. So tell us a bit about yourself, your business, what you have here, and how you started. So just tell us your story.
Okay, so I start.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Doris Ainembabazi, and I deal in crafts, African crafts. There are different types of crafts. We have the leather, the real leather crafts, and then we have this is handmade. You just get, there are threads, hard threads that you just sew. You sew different designs there. There is this kind of design, and there is this. So you can add different colors as you wish, depending on your taste. These are locally made here in Uganda. We use some machines, industrial machines. They are locally made here in Uganda as well. Everything is made here. The material, the leather and the sole, this is all got from here. We have some types that we use the car tires. You just cut them and still use. How I started, there is a factory in Ginger.
That's about 100. Sorry, 1 second. Is it about the power? What is it?
We start again.
Yeah.
We repeat afresh. Yeah? Okay, so I start.
Yeah, and just take your time.
Okay.
This is your moment.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Doris Ainembabazi. I deal in African crafts, different types of crafts. We have the leather, the pure leather crafts, and we have those that are a little bit weaker. They are sewed. You use threads and sew different designs. There are a number of designs and number of colors. You can mix different colors as you wish, and you just fix them Unlike these are purely leather. Well, these crafts are made from Uganda, right here, purely here. The machines and the products, we make everything from here. The final product is got from here. How I started and how I got interest, I always see people getting crafts from Nairobi and everywhere, and I knew there's something we can do from here. So there is a factory of crafts in Jinja. We had to go and study, get to know how to join the color combination and how to make everything. So it doesn't take long, a 9-month study after, you can learn how to make this. We have different shops. We have an online shop on Jumia called DJ's Craft Shop, and Facebook DJ's Craft Shop. We have all products. We have different sizes. You're welcome.
Yeah. What was the inspiration?
Inspiration is these sandals are used for casual. People always buy the made sandals from out, but these are very long lasting, unlike the ones bought from the shops, the one imported. And they are stylish because you can have different designs.
Yes.
You can have different types,
Yeah.
and you can have it anywhere. It's casual. You can put it anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can have a black, you can have a brown.
Yeah.
It depends.
You make these here?
Yes, we make this here. This we started last year in October.
Okay, so during
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah, during COVID, because that time, yeah.
What did you work during COVID?
Yeah.
We were idle. We had nothing to do. Work was off, so we had to look for something to. Yes. So they sell them in town.
The leather?
Yeah, but mostly the good one like this is mostly, honestly, got from Kenya.
Okay. So you get the leather from Kenya?
Yes, then you make their machines, so you just sew the designs, you add. It's a
So
process.
you do also the whole cutting,
Yeah, the machines, the cutting, the shaping, everything, the different designs. So this is sewed. This is sewed. Yeah, you sew. So you have to learn to sew, then you teach other people around you, like ladies in the community.
Yeah.
So they learn how to sew the different designs, like you can see the combination of colors.
Yeah. Because this is beautiful.
Yeah, so after then you can just join. After making the sew, you
You
join.
import is the leather.
It's the leather.
Then everything else, the design.
Right here. Even the machines are made here.
The machines are big.
Yes.
From where?
From Katwe.
Katwe?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
The machines are made here. Yeah. It's
Yeah, the
it's
quality
nice. And the price is very affordable.
How much you sell this?
This only goes for 25.
Okay.
And these 35.
Because they're bigger.
Yes. Yeah. The leather.
Yes. And the leather.
This is real leather. This is a little bit weaker.
Oh yeah, because this is just.
Yeah, because this is just thread, but this is real leather.
The leather is nice.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised we don't have like this quality of leather in Uganda. Though.
They are there, but they're weaker. Honestly, they are weaker.
It's soft. I know Uganda leather is soft.
Yeah, it's soft.
quite
So
soft.
when water pours, it easily
Okay.
bends or gets soft.
So it does good bags, good chairs.
Yeah,
Soft
yeah,
chairs,
they do it for
yes.
soft chairs, such things. But this is
You
stronger.
need hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can have this for over 5 years.
Okay. Where are you best? Do you have
So-
a card?
Oh no, I didn't carry my card. I forgot my cards, but you can have my number.
Where are you best?
I have an online shop on Jumia,
Oh,
and
on Jumia.
I'm opening up a shop in downtown Kampala, just at Modern Plaza.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've been doing Jumia and Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah,
And now you're expanding your.
078 65 43 531. Yeah, my name is Doris.
So Doris, what's the name of your...
DJ's Craft Shop. But we have the different labels to differentiate. To differentiate
JJ,
that,
PhD.
yeah.
Why PhD?
I should have one. I would love to have one. Yeah,
JJ.
that's the goal.
And how many people do you employ?
A number of them, because this takes a process.
Yeah, I can see them.
Someone has to sew this, someone has to put the soles together,
someone-
someone now like this, someone has to sew.
This bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are a number of people. So a shoe can be made by 4 people. When someone sticks the sole, someone sews the
You need to specialize
design.
in that bit.
Yeah, and then different people have different abilities. Like the designs, you find someone, this is their best
This is their
design.
special.
They will do this in a minute.
Yeah. And then they will do this one.
There's a more complex, so this is more complex because of.
So you need to get someone.
But you'll find someone who will do this in.
Just
Yes.
like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so different people have different energies, different abilities. Yeah, just like this. You see, this is more complex.
I know this because someone had to.
So there's someone special for this.
Someone had to crochet.
Yes, but this is very easy. You can even learn it yourself.
Because this is straight.
Yeah, this is very easy. Anyone can do this. But thank you so much. Thank
We'll
you.
get in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your
Did
time.
I do good?
Yeah, it was good. You see, you've even gotten business. Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
We're with you now. It's your turn to shine. So talk. Sell yourself properly. No, come to it on the t-shirt. Sell yourself properly. Like, don't wait for me to ask you questions. Just sell yourself.
You can ask.
Hmm?
You can.
Yeah, but sell yourself. It's your turn.
Where? Hello, I'm Justine Apieno. I deal in African crafts. My crafts are imported from Nairobi. I mostly deal in shoes, earrings, bags, bangles, scarf. They are all affordable. They are not too expensive since they are handmade. The way I started, I just had passion of crafts. And I just woke up one morning, I'm like, I have to set up a business. So I thought of the African crafts since I had that passion. And I woke up one morning, asked a friend, where can I get these crafts from Nairobi? Since Ugandans love a lot of Kenyan crafts. So I just woke up, went to Nairobi, started looking for good crafts, bring to Uganda. Though it was not an easy job at the beginning, but afterwards I managed to succeed. Now here I am now. A lot of stuff, people love the craft to look unique. If you want to look like rare from other people, you just have to use the African craft and just look unique, look smart, look cultural, and everything will just move on. Since the Uganda is just full of Africans, and Africans love to be Africans, so they just go in for the African, the bags, the earrings, the bangles, and they move on, and life goes on. Thank you.
Okay, so how did you survive during the COVID period and how is it relevant to you?
The COVID period wasn't all that good. I made a lot of losses. I did the online stuff. I tried the online. It worked for me, though. But at the end, I managed to succeed, and I got new ideas of how to manage my business. Because now the online is working better than operating a shop. Yeah.
Thank you. Hey.
So what do I talk about?
Anything. Talk about like the inspiration behind this. Let's hide this in your pockets. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Faith Aweko from Reform Africa. We're a social business here in Uganda that upcycles plastic polythene waste bags into school bags, backpacks, different other accessories like the pegs used for hanging clothes on the wire. With Uganda having high rates of plastic pollution, especially in Kampala where we produce 500 tons of plastic waste and 51% is not collected. So we thought of creating solutions around plastic waste management and recycling plastics. Thank you.
Inspiration behind this starting.
Okay. Sure, sure. Yes. So we sell our products on Jumia. We also sell via our websites, and we have two shops on Bukoto Street that retail, that is Corner and the Bountiful Duka, and we also ship worldwide as well. Yes. How is this?
The event relevant to you and your business.
How has that?
How is the event relevant to you and your business?
I don't get it.
The event, the bounce back event, how will it be relevant to you and your business?
Oh. So we are always looking for, anyway, opportunities to expose our work. So this event, because it's going to be shown on TV and on the Uganda Investment Authority, so this is a great opportunity for Reform Africa to sell our products out there and see that we can get also more investments and more customers, and to create more awareness on plastic pollution in Uganda. You're welcome.
Study, want to know how to join the color combination and how to make everything. So it doesn't take longer, 9 months study after you can.
This are done? Yeah. And then do you need shots of people eating? No? Do you need shots of those people eating? Those ones, yeah. Okay. Excuse me. Excuse me. I need you.
That's not for Kentaro herself.
No, just talk about it. It's not like, just talk about what this is.
Okay. Ready to take this off? Cover this. Okay. Hi everybody. Welcome to the Good Hair Collective. Brand name Kentaro. Kentaro targets our African hair. That is a little bit to maintain, how to maintain. So what we wanted to do is simplify life for our hair and make an African woman love her hair. So we picked out a few products that can help our hair here and there. Depending on the problem, those experiencing breakage, we do have your products as well. We have our anti-breakage berry set. It targets the hair that is weak, breaking. So what this set does, it gives your hair strength. Then we have other products that help the ladies with the hard hair that find it hard to maintain their hair. So we also have a set for you as well. Then we have our ladies who love keeping their hair in protective styles, braided, weaves. We also have a set for you. This that we call our braid care set. So this helps keep your braids, locks moisturized and smelling good. Then we also have not forgotten our men out there also, they're not forgotten. So they also have a beard care set here that has their oils and beard wash. This helps the males out there get a fuller beard, keeps your beard shining and smelling good. So yes, so our women out there, we're not forgotten. We have something for you. Feel free, love your African hair. All hair is beautiful. Yes, that is it. Brief and nice.
You sell yourself properly?
Yes.
Good.
I don't even have them here.
Okay, talk about them.
Okay, hi guys. So, Chargeco is startup. Guys, I'm the worst person for this, honestly. For real. So ChargeCo provides power solutions to individuals and people. So we have basically around 4 products. We have power stations, charging lockers, solar backpacks, and we're sort of working on a prototype for electric bicycles.
Okay, so tell us about this.
So this is a solar backpack,
Okay.
and sort of we have solar panels that are attached to the backpack. So yeah, while you're outside in the field, you can sort of charge, and inside there's like charging options for you while you're outside in the field.
Ah, okay, for your phones.
Yeah, for your
Does
phones
this
and
need
stuff.
the sun to be able to charge?
Yes.
Or just the fact that you're carrying it?
No. You can have it on your backpack. This sort of rolls over and can be tied by this.
Okay.
So the sun hits the solar panels, then, you know, converts energy that you can charge your phone and
That
cameras
is it
with.
to charge your phone and the cameras.
Yeah.
Where's the camera box?
No, it's the same. It's the same. There's very many ports in here. Yeah.
Okay. What is this bag called? Portable?
Pardon?
This bag particularly is called?
We
The
don't.
portable bag.
The portable bag or something like that.
Okay.
All right.
Tell us about that.
No, this is just a bag for my laptop.
Tell us about the
So-
rest of it.
Yeah. So this looks like a normal bike, but it's a motor charged bike with batteries. So this sort of works with the first wheel, and yeah, the bike pedals easier than normal. That's it. Yeah.
Yes, so what does this event mean to you? The bounce back event.
Actually, I'm the worst person to answer this, please.
Thank you very much. You know you still need to do something. I do. When? It's okay. Doesn't matter. Here. Come.
So are you going to be asking questions?
No.
No, I'm not sure.
Just talk about your products. Like don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. It's just for you to just say like what you feel. Do you have like So just talk about the products. You can talk about the individual, the
Yeah.
inspiration,
Okay.
how it started, the
Okay.
story. Like don't overthink it. Just like you're telling anyone else.
I'm Dora Machivuka, and designs by Dora. And I make these products. Like this is a dog bed. It's for the pets. I make them from kitenge, and I stuff it with fiber. Now I also make these bags. It's a laptop bag. There's a customer of mine who got me inspired to start making this because it has also pockets for the like accessories, power bank, maybe also a charger. And then in case you have a hard copy, is it a hard copy? Yeah. I also make these. They are called the wall pockets. You can put in some stuff. Maybe it can be in a bathroom or in a kitchen. Then I also make this. I think these are quite common. These are hair bonnets, and also it has a headband. So you can separate them. You can use one or the other at any given time. And then also these are toilet bags. Yeah.
So what was the inspiration for you starting this business?
Yeah, the inspiration, I think it's my passion to do this. Yeah, I got it. I started because I have passion. I'm passionate about this.
Okay. And when did you start?
I was working from home, still working from home. That's like,
COVID period?
not really, before COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, it was before COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does this event mean to you?
Wow. This event means, I think it,
What do you hope to get from it? What would you like to get from the whole event?
yeah, the knowledge,
Do you
of
want
course.
investments to expand your business? What exactly do you want?
Yeah, I would love it if possible. The investors to invest to expand it.
To expand your business? Okay.
Yeah,
Any
that's
parting shots? Thank you.
yeah, welcome.
So this one will go there. Thank you. You banned on YouTube? You banned on YouTube? Hi. Are you ready?
Yes.
Actually, we can be interviewing as you're doing what you're doing. Yeah, it doesn't have to be like, it's just for YouTube. Yeah. So like while you're hanging them, don't worry, just you do your thing. Then put this in the pocket. Perfect. So this is for our YouTube channel, and you just need to talk to us about your business, your products,
Yeah.
anything you want the world to know about what you do, your name, your inspiration,
Okay.
and what this event means to you.
Does it really work? Huh?
We're live.
Oh. My name is Joel Okalani. I'm a Ugandan and the founder and CEO of Jewel Trends. This is my brand. It's a unique fashion store founded in 2018. So you can know that with this day we'll be marking about 4 years. Yeah, and counting. What inspired me to do fashion is I actually like to think fashion chose me because before getting into the fashion and the whole building a brand, I was working with Union Pay. It's a Chinese firm, which is a banking institution. But I had to make a decision to build my own brand. That's how I got into Jewel Trends. Yeah, as you can see, what we do, basically bags, shirts, anything to do with fashion.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Just one of those coincidences that happened that you are into color.
I think people are attracted by color. Yeah. And in Uganda, we have very, very few, or close to none, who is doing really colorful stuff. Yeah, so for me, I like things that are resplendent. Color is very attractive to everyone. Yeah, so that's what really inspires my.
And this
And-
fabric is very unique. What kind of fabric is it? Because you can see the difference between that. That looks very African. Is this an African fabric? How would it?
Yeah. Yes. But as you can touch it, It's light in weight, and you know, as Africa, it's a very hot continent, and the shirts which we bring are mainly imported and stuff. Some are come that they're very heavy, so I wanted something that was light, that could tell that when you're in Africa, it's hot. You need something light, yes, and something resplendent too, that you could wear, and you also look nice too. Yeah. Pardon?
How do you come up with the patterns?
It all comes in the head. Like when I look at a color, in my head I have all these pictures. What could I do with this? What pattern comes out? What could look best? So basically, it's just all the idea that comes into mind, and how I curate it all. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and what is the big dream? Or what do you want to get
Out of this event, basically, in Africa, Uganda is like, I think, the second most creative nation. Yeah. So I want to be part of that chain of creatives, that we know we build something that identifies Uganda and Africa as a whole, because we need to also start looking at our own market, our own products. Yeah, and you know, to scale up to that identity is what I'm really trying to build. Yeah, something bespoke, something original.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what makes you stand out? Why do you think you stand out?
Our products are made to a very high standard. The way you can look at them and stuff, we're trying to give Ugandans that quality that, wow, I think we can also even do better than this. For me, that is what inspires me. I want something to a very high standard. Most of the products in Uganda, everything is basically imported. And very few people really take time to emphasize on quality, originality. So it is something that I really also want to bring on board. Yeah? Yeah.
Any parting shots?
Guys need to support. I think Ugandans need to learn preference and treat our products like the way they treat imported products. Yeah, I think we need to start somewhere, and that's how we can scale up and develop our nation. We're a very young nation, and we have so many creatives out there. So just get on ground. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you too. All right. Oh.
Thank you. That was good. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we could please take our seats. We would like to kick off the bounce back. Okay, so a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, here with us today, those of us physically present and those of us streaming online, and welcome to the Uganda Investment Authority's Bounce Back, Investing in the Face of Adversity. All protocol observed, and that is Uganda Investment Authority personnel, government agencies, and our investments in your different capacities. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the Fifth Estate, all of you, welcome. We hope to have a fantastic and very fruitful conversation this morning. Now, a few housekeeping rules. My name is Marcus, and I'll be your moderator, so to speak, for this morning. Quickly, the restrooms are to my left. Take a hard left and a hard right thereafter. You'll see them. The way this will work is we will have two opening remarks from two of the reasons why we're here, Uganda Investment Authority and our host from Motive. And then we will start our panel discussions. Each panel member, in the interest of time, will have 7 minutes each to speak about their company or where it is they're representing and what that means to investment in Uganda. So that is, if you are a government agency, why it's important, if you're an investor, how to do it, etc., etc. We will then have 7 minutes after that of questions to the panelists, and we will have 4 of such sessions this morning. Again, we are very happy that Motive was very, very graceful enough to have us use this space. However, we do have time limits within to work with, so we shall be very, very keen on how much time we spend so that we can be out of here within the time that was allocated to us. So that is really what we shall be doing this entire morning. To the people going to ask questions, please take notes as the speakers speak. If you have any question with regarding innovation, with regards to investment, please note them down. Ask freely, and the panelists have been told to answer every question as long as it is not a personal one. Okay, so that said, I would like to ask to start today by inviting the Director General of Uganda Investment Authority, who here is represented by the Director of One Stop Center, Mr. Joseph Chigundu, to please come and give his opening remarks. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Bwana Marcus. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before I relay the remarks from the DG, who unfortunately couldn't make it here because of another similarly important event, I would like to say that I'm excited to be here in front of you, and I want to congratulate the organizers, our team from Investment Authority and Motive themselves. I guess if this was 20 years ago, I would probably be one of the young innovators up there showcasing a product or so, maybe in IT. It's quite exciting anyway. So ladies and gentlemen here present, allow me to do this small duty ahead of me by beginning to tell you a little about Uganda that is probably enticing to those who don't know our investment climate in general speaking. First of all, we have the youngest population in the world, and that's fact. I think some figures put it at 80%, below 30, others quote about 77%. You can imagine having a country full of young people and the kind of innovation that would go with that. Then secondly, 28% of the adults in Uganda own or co-own a new business. Actually, in at certain fora, we are quoted as the most entrepreneurial country. And I think that's also a fact. We actually start up businesses. So Ugandans actually want to innovate around issues and probably get some commercial value out of it. We rank as one of the world's leading economies with the most women-owned businesses, and that's fact. And I really want to encourage our ladies and women to continue in that aspect as well. And then we are strategically located at the hub where you can actually launch a lot of products into many markets, COMESA, ESC, and so on and so forth. All this to say is that we celebrate and learn from the different investors and innovators today that Uganda is truly the best hub and place to invest right now. Okay? Apart from what I've said, there are a number of other quotations as well, Uganda being the most friendly country, and this of course appeals to those who haven't visited Uganda. That's also a quote. The World Bank says that close to 50% of the arable land in ESC is actually in Uganda, and I think about 27% only of it is utilized for commercial agriculture. So you can actually see where the challenge is. There's quite a bit of potential. And then, of course, I was chatting with a friend who told me we actually have the largest collection of rivers and lakes in the world. So that's another interesting factor for those who are looking at tourism and maybe conservation. Almost a year ago, Uganda went into lockdown as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And as a country, we experienced a series of measures intended to curb the spread of the disease, the impact of which we still feel today. But I must say on behalf of government that there's been some commendable effort. Those of you, I don't know whether anyone here has benefited from the COVID response program from government, but there's quite a bit of program that I think is still running. If you go to the PSFU website and UIA, there's some guidance on some of the rebates that government is doing for businesses in this COVID era. So curiously, during that time, we also saw a number of businesses start to evolve as people understood the new environment, and that just the way they thought about the businesses and how they deliver their goods and services. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to tell Uganda's investment story in terms of come back from the COVID, bounce back from the COVID period. We are here to talk about investment opportunities that exist in Uganda and show off the passionate and entrepreneurial and resilient spirit that is uniquely Ugandan. We want everyone in this room, and all those on our live stream to hear this story from the innovators and investors who live this investment journey every day. We therefore have to put together a diverse group of innovators and entrepreneurs, funders, with a goal to, one, showcase the different investment opportunities that exist in this country and the amazing things that our investors and innovators are doing despite the pandemic. Secondly, to create a platform through which partnerships can be formed between our investors and other domestic and international investors. And thirdly, to provide assurance to our investors, both current and future, that creating a positive investment environment in Uganda is government's top priority. Actually, on this one, I want to give you my personal and the institution's assurance that we are doing our best, and we are always at your service to ensure that you get the best services you can get from us. We are running a one-stop center, as you know, for which I head, and we have a convergence of about 14 government agencies and some private agencies, trying to make sure that your business processing and licensing is done under one roof and on one portal. We have just run through a few of the services we have online, including beginning with business advisory, which is led by a team of young people, Simon, Peter, and others. Some are here present. Business registration, trading license application, tax advisory and registration as well, land verification. You know, land is quite an issue in the investment space, so you can actually verify your land title with us. Provision of work permits, which is done by our colleagues from the Directorate of Immigration. Environmental impact assessment, those who want to go to free zones and you're already manufacturing and you meet the 80-20 threshold, we have someone from free zones to assist you to gazette your space as a free zone. We handle employer-employee issues throughout the Federation of Uganda Employers. And then, of course, we have people talking about conservation and tourism. So this has significantly reduced the setup time and costs of starting off a business. I would like to assure you that in the last 1 year and quarters that related to that, we've been able to issue an investment license to about 70% of the companies in less than 1 day. So that is quite something that we should be able to clap for. Our service level commitment as investment authority is 48 hours, but when we did a dry run on our system, we actually see that 70% of the people managed to get their investment licenses in a day. So that is quite commendable. So please, for those who haven't visited Uganda for purposes of investment, we are here to help you, to get you started as soon as possible. So one of the areas of focus for this year is a domestic investor. Domestic in this sense meaning our businesses from the EAC region. Some of you, I guess, are familiar with the East African Protocol. So domestic, that term now means our colleagues from the EAC as well. We are working to ensure that this environment category is supported to receive the skilling, access to markets, and financing that they need so that they can increase the number of jobs our youth can access, to improve import substitution, and to improve the quality of the goods produced here, both for domestic and international consumption. So ladies and gentlemen, at the end of this event, we want to have a shared understanding of the investment potential of this country, which, as I have highlighted at a very high level, is quite big, and how the government and the public sector can work to ensure that investors get access to the necessary support. So with these few remarks, I welcome you to this event and wish you the most fruitful of deliberations. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chigundu. You know, there are some amazing statistics that he spoke about at the beginning of his speech about Uganda. And I think they were some people who were still finishing their tea, so it might have passed them. Let me just rewind for you. Youngest population in the world. The numbers change depending on who you ask, but it moves between 78 and 82% in almost all fora. Two very interesting other statistics that I want us to just think about. 50% of all arable land in East Africa is in Uganda. To put that simply, and we use only 27% of it. To put that simply, if we even increased that to 40%, we would single-handedly feed the region without any other country growing a banana. All the food could come from Uganda. But from an innovation standpoint, because that's why we are here, the last statistic was we are probably the most entrepreneurial country in the world. But you know the challenge we have? 70% of all companies that are started in Uganda don't see their third birthday. Small challenge there. However, I attended a business forum which I moderated with some senior bankers, and one banker, very reputable banker, said, if every SME in Uganda organized itself and went by the proper way of doing business and employed 3 people extra, 1, 2, 3, we would solve the unemployment problem in this country. If every SME, that those ones that failed to go past their third birthday, did business well, continued to grow, and employed 3 people, 1, 2, 3, just unemployment in this country would be resolved. Food for thought, since we are here discussing things. And speaking of somebody who deals almost every day of his life with young people, allow me to invite our host, C.K. Japheth, founder, Motive, Karibu Sana, to give your opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I normally say good morning twice, so people respond at the second time. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today, and also those who are following us online for this conversation about bouncing back. It's an interesting conversation because when I was asked to talk about bouncing back too, and for a person who's also running a business, I don't know whether we're bouncing back or we're somewhere in there just beginning to think about what recovery looks like. But I'm very grateful to the management at Uganda Investment Authority for deciding to join us and host this, especially at Motive. This could have been anywhere. It could have been at Serena. It could have been at another hotel out there. But it's a big vote of confidence, spending your time and having a conversation about bouncing back at Motive, which is a community of creatives. It definitely shows that you have your mindset in the right place as far as the statistics that you've shared, and Mark has also shared about the young people and about what we need to do to unlock that creativity, that entrepreneurship capacity that we see among the entrepreneurs. It's the fuel that keeps us going, and a job that is absolutely difficult. So thank you very much, Uganda Investment Authority. Deeply appreciated. I think for me, my call is that we take that conversation and relationship, to the next level, in the context of now organizing, investment destinations Uganda, but strictly looking at entrepreneurs, strictly looking at the different creatives, because the needs they have are uniquely different from a typical investor who's coming into the country. Their aspirations are also different we need to do a lot of work in profiling who they are, where they are, what they need, and how we can take that to the next level. And we commit our participation as far as that agenda is concerned. A lot of the work we've been doing is around how do we build the environment an entrepreneur survives in or needs to operate in. It's not a private sector responsibility, but we took on that responsibility because of our understanding that if it's not, that environment is not built, we will not necessarily achieve the aspirations we want. It's easy to say that Uganda is the most entrepreneurial country in the world, but what percentage of capital is coming to Ugandan entrepreneurs? You know, so if our policy environment is not speaking to how we can make this place more investable, you know, then we will keep saying entrepreneurial, but we won't see that corresponding investment coming into the country. So some of the initiatives we've been pursuing around, you know, just having a startup act and saying, can we put in place a policy environment where we can incentivize big business corporates to work with entrepreneurs and creatives. They call it CSR now, but you know, there's actually shared value and interest for big business corporates to get engaged in sustainable relationships with entrepreneurs. And I keep saying we can't have these conversations successfully without partnerships like the Uganda Investment Authority. So we thank you for being active players in the space. I'd also like to take this opportunity to recognize and celebrate the entrepreneurs in the space. I think I'm standing in greatness everywhere I look in the room. There is an entrepreneur who's building something they truly believe in, you know, something that keeps them up at 3 a.m. I won't mention names. I just stood next to Amos, and I was telling him how resilient he has been and how inspirational he is to so many others that are following him up, and how himself he is. You know, so we celebrate you, you know, entrepreneurs in the room. Please just, yeah. The future belongs to you. It's hard, I know, but you know, we need to keep pushing, and we need to keep focusing on what it means to be able to, you know, succeed in an environment that is not necessarily built for you to succeed. And the question becomes, whose job is it to build that environment? You know, and that's where, you know, we also have a lot of interest in the work that we're doing. Personally, as we think of bounce back, for me, the last 2 years have been brutal. You know, I've felt like I've been operating from the front lines of World War III. You know, literally, you know, every day is solving a crisis as an entrepreneur. And if you solve the crisis or challenge at 7 a.m., the relief you feel and live with that relief throughout the day and into the next day is not an easy one. I was speaking to one of our team members, and I asked her, what's your biggest fear? Then she told me her biggest fear is, should I want to sink the ship? And then my feedback was that, unfortunately, if you're working in a startup environment, the ship is already at the bottom of the sea, not lake, not river. It's at the bottom of the sea. Everything you do every morning is to unsink the ship. You know, so a small win in the morning is good enough for you to be able to pick up from there next day. Success is not guaranteed. You know, and because of our culture of fear, of failure, you know, our culture means that I will spot fear entering or failure entering the gate, and I will pass this side. I don't even have to fail. And then we laugh at everybody for the failure, you know, for the stumbling, and fear and failure become final and fatal. You know, so it speaks a lot to, you know, that culture that we need to begin to develop. So for personally, even us running, the spaces we run spaces in Gulu, Jinja, Mbara, Motive, Tinder, for entrepreneurs to build that ecosystem, which is core to what we're trying to achieve, But every day almost felt like it was the last day, 2 years in lockdown. And I was just having a joke with Teddy, and I was telling him that personally, that last 2 years have made me reevaluate my own dreams and aspirations. Someone might listen to everything I'm saying and only pick out this one. But my new dream is to run a pork joint in Nigeria. It's so much easier than trying to change the world, and that's what entrepreneurs do. It's so much easier than to want to come back every morning when you don't have evidence that what you're trying to work on is even working. And I told that to Amos. He told me, you won't be happy, so just keep going on. So let's keep going on. But not all is lost, not all is lost. There is significant evidence that we are on an upward trajectory, a lot of it. One of the hardest questions I couldn't answer when investors, I speak to almost 2 investors every week. One of the hardest questions was, what does exit look like if I invest in Uganda? 2 years ago I didn't have an answer for that. We don't do stock exchange, we don't play on the markets, we don't have acquisitions. But in the last 12 months or so, you have about 3 acquisitions that have happened of a tech company that someone built from scratch, and someone is interested in investing in that company. So there's evidence that we're on an upward trajectory. Evidence, from Uganda Investment Authority being part of this conversation, that there is something happening around the entrepreneurs, around the creative economy, around young people that needs to be unlocked. Significant evidence, National ICT Innovation Hub. So how do we, tap into those opportunities of the trends we're now beginning to see? We've recently seen Rocket Health, get invested in. Speaking to an investor from Kenya, Goodwill Investments, and the guy told me, I have a check to write of $5 million. I don't want to leave Uganda without writing that check for someone. Who are your top 5 people? I met the investors, Create Dev, who recently invested in Rocket Health. They are coming into the country, but they are writing checks of a minimum of $3 million, and Nordic Impact Funds that we recently had an event with, who have invested in 2 companies in a space of I think a month. A month ago, I met a Kenyan investor at 7 a.m. at a hotel, and she told me, where she struggles with a lot of our companies is around, culture, attitude, and she told me she didn't even think the meeting we're having is supposed to happen, because it was 7 a.m. and people here don't turn up to meetings at 7 a.m. She came into Uganda, invested in 3 companies, and went out in a space of a week. So there's enough evidence. So if you're building something, I urge you, don't stop. I normally tell people who haven't started, when they come to me and they say, I have this idea, what should I do, and what should I normally tell them, don't start. Your threshold for fear, pain, failure must be high if you're going to start. And those who have started, I told them, don't stop, because that's how we end up eventually winning. So thank you for spending time with us this morning. Motive is a community of makers, creatives. We initially built the Innovation Village around tech-enabled startups, but we had to face the fact that the biggest percentage of our country is young creatives, makers, And we wanted to participate in that ecosystem to grow it too by creating that environment of access to capital, access to market, access to inputs, access to tools. We failed successfully from start, right? But that's the spirit of how we end up winning. You know, you try a number of things, they don't work, you can come back better, keep moving, they don't work, keep moving, and eventually somehow you make it, and like Teddy said, you become an overnight success after X years of trying to make it. So thank you very much, we appreciate your time, and we look forward to the conversations we're having. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CK. So, I think we can start the conversation. The ground has been set. You have the statistics, you have the numbers, you have the motivation. A very famous actor by the name of Denzel Washington once said, without commitment, you'll never start. Without consistency, you'll never finish. You can write that down. You can even tweet it. You can give me the credit, but also say behind Denzel Washington, but said by Marcus. So now we can start this conversation. Remember, let me first introduce our speakers from Great Lake Safaris, very well known, Mr. Amos Wekesa, Karibu. From Ideation Corner, Ambassador Damali Sali, please. Welcome. And from Reform Africa, Ms. Faith Alweko. So, our good speakers, each of you has a microphone in your seat. There must be an on button somewhere. We will start with ladies first, Amos, if you don't mind. And the idea is I will give you all 7 minutes to briefly introduce yourself, what you do, your words of wisdom with regards to bouncing back and investing, and your ideas of investment in Uganda and why it should be taken seriously. I think I'll start from my extreme left with Ms. Faith Alweko.
Thank you so much. So I have a PowerPoint presentation.
You guys have it? You want to come and stand here? Yes, please come.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Faith Aweko. I'm the founder of Reform Africa, a social business in Uganda that upcycles plastic polythene waste bags into sustainable, durable, and waterproof bags and accessories. Reform Africa was founded in 2018 as a research project by 3 women who are passionate about the environment and thank you. In one way or the other, who are affected by the poor waste management and plastic waste pollution in Uganda. Personally, I grew up from Naguru go down, and throughout my childhood, I was greatly affected by flooding and plastic waste, poor plastic waste management. And I remember days when it would rain heavily, that we had to spend the nights draining water out of our houses because of the floods. And in 2018, I got to realize it was because of the poor waste management. So you find in Kampala or even Uganda at large, we mix both organic and inorganic waste. And in the slum areas, people pour waste in the trenches when it rains. And this clogs the trenches and causes the recurring floodings. And so in Kampala alone, we produce over 500 tons of plastic waste every day, and 51% of this waste is not collected. This is the waste that ends in the trenches, on the streets, and when people are traveling across Uganda, empty soda or water bottles are thrown through the windows. And at Reform Africa, we do upcycle polythenes into sustainable, and durable and waterproof bags and accessories. We have backpacks, school bags, shopping bags, and different more accessories. And we've also recently, during COVID-19, we introduced a couple of products. We moved from only recycling soft plastics, that is the polythene, to recycling also hard plastic. And the first product that we are currently making are the cloth pegs made out of recycled bottle tops and HDPE plastics. Thank you. So, yeah, so these are the products that we make. So we've grown from only recycling 50 kilograms of plastics to 600 kilograms of plastics currently, and in 2021 we made 4,500 bags despite of the COVID pandemic, and we also moved from just employing 5 people to 20. So we work with women who collect plastics in the landfills, also on the streets of Kampala, because we find that 80% of waste pickers are women, and these are underpaid by the middlemen. We've also won a couple of awards. We've been featured recently by CNN. We've also been featured by Voice of America, Daily Monitor. And for our growth strategies, we hope to do more sales, obviously in marketing by penetrating more and more markets, both locally and internationally. And the second one is product development. We are currently developing this cloth bag made out of recycled plastics, but we hope to develop more and more products this year. We also hope to expand our market base deep in Uganda. And the last one is partnerships for development. And these are our financial projections. In 2020, we made 36 million, and in 2021, we made 90. And this year, we hope to make 226 million. This is our team. We are a team of 3 ladies, one who is in product design and finance, one is in sales and marketing, and I'm in business development and production. Thank you.
Another round of applause for an all-female team. Thank you very much. Ambassador, but I think I was told you wanted to come to the podium, or you can do it from there. Okay, cool.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So my name is Damali Sali. I am the founder of the Ideation Corner, which is a social impact fund that seeks a Uganda that where young entrepreneurs, innovators, can have capital to scale their businesses. I am also the ambassador for Women Entrepreneurs Day organization, which is part of the United Nations, and I am the ambassador for Uganda. So the reason why, thank you, the reason why the Ideation Corner focuses on young people, entrepreneurs, innovators, and especially women and youth, is that the statistics are just overwhelming. Marcus has mentioned it before, where we have almost 80% of our population under the age of 30 years, where we have 40% of our entrepreneurs in Uganda are female. Thank you for actually having a real example there. So Uganda in the world is the #1 globally, having the highest number of female entrepreneurs. So Ugandan women, we're incredibly entrepreneurial, we're creative, and we do our best. And also, when you look at what Ugandan entrepreneurs, where they source their money to start these businesses. They get their money from friends and family. So your friends, the value of your friends and family, the amount of disposable income they have literally determines how much capital you will have to start your idea. So if you come from a poor family and you come from a poor environment, the friends and family who can give you that money are equally poor. So it limits, you may have a wonderful idea, but it also limits how much you can actually do because your friends and family have less money to give to you. Of course, if you come from rich people, then great. Then you have more money to actually start your idea. But generally, that's where Ugandan entrepreneurs actually get their monies, from friends and family. So they struggle along, and they test the market, they start their business, they have their business model. It works, it makes sense. But they're usually limited by how far they can go. Because within this space of maybe 1 or 2 years of you testing your product, trying it out, finding out what works, what doesn't work, and you're still resilient, you're still hanging there to do it, in a space of 2 years, your friends and families are exhausted of putting money into your business. You've begged enough. They've had enough of it. And we always usually hear this statistic which says Ugandan are very entrepreneurs, which is fantastic, but then 90% of their businesses die within 2 years. But why is that? The reason for that is that they don't have extra capital to scale. You may have tested your business model, it works, it makes sense, but you've exhausted your source of funding, which is your friends and family, and you have no one anymore willing to put money in you. And yet it may work, and you can't, the only way to actually make it profitable is to scale. And so the only options also usually that are available to Ugandans, if I think about them, is going to a bank. And I like Marcus, what you said, where a banker says that if these 90% of SMEs that die within 2 years actually did employ 3 people, we wouldn't have unemployment. The problem is that the same bankers will not give a young entrepreneur a commercial loan for them to scale their business, because they'll ask this young entrepreneur, like, Faith, we need collateral, we need a land title. How many young people below 30 have a land title? I don't have a land title and I've been working for years. So if you think about how many young entrepreneurs really have a land title to they be able to access a commercial loan, they're very few. So they're entrepreneur, you developed your business model, it works, it makes sense, but you want to scale. And your source of funding, family and friends, don't have any more money to put into your wonderful dream. The banks can't lend you any money because you don't have any title. Then the usually other economies that work, they have maybe high net worth individuals who are happy to put money into entrepreneurial people. We don't have that culture here where we have rich people putting money into risky entrepreneurs to scale. Or they have venture capital funds. Again, I can't think of a venture capital fund in Uganda that we have. So, and that's normally where an entrepreneur would go for money, which is happy to take a risk or understands the idea that being an entrepreneur is risky, and they can therefore give you those funds. The other place probably will be an angel investor. Again, we don't have that many angel investors in Uganda. So you find these statistics that is normally repeated where 90% of our SMEs die within 2 years, but they don't explain the story. The reason they die is because they've exhausted the only source of funding they have, which is family and friends. And their business may work, but they don't have any more money to actually scale it. And so we need to come up with a framework within which we can actually help our entrepreneurs, our smart people. We've seen Ugandans, young entrepreneurs are very smart, they're very clever. They do incredibly smart things, but they can only trudge along for so long. The issue of lack of access to capital has to be addressed. Domestic capital, access to capital, not just access to capital, but access to cheap capital. Because if you think about getting given a commercial loan, you're paying interest rates of 18%, how are you going to survive? And then also, the banks don't understand the risk that an entrepreneur really takes. So in a way, we need to address that. And if we do address that problem, like the banker said, that if those SMEs, the 90% of SMEs that are dying within 2 years, if they employed 3 more people, we would not have an unemployment problem. Then that's where we need to target as a country. If we're going to, given how many young people we don't have enough jobs in the economy. We can't create enough jobs in the economy to employ them. So the only option they have is to create jobs for themselves. So if as a country we want the same, we're driving towards the same goals, young people, create your own jobs, then we should be figuring out how do we avail money to them, especially those ones who have a successful business model that has been tested out. How do we provide cheap money to them so that they can scale, so that they can hire more people, so that those people can have more disposable income. And then when those people have disposable income, they're consuming more, you're collecting more VAT, therefore the government has more money at its disposal to actually provide social services. So I feel like the elephant in the room that is never usually addressed is that issue. Where do these young entrepreneurs who have a smart business model that works, where do they get the money to scale that bit? And it kind of needs to be addressed. It's something that we really should all be talking about and trying to solve as a community, as Ugandans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And two things. What you said about friends and family is very true. Have you ever borrowed from your family members until they stop inviting you for family functions? Like you walk in and you see people scattering, ooh, yo. Yakusaba meka? It's bad, it's really bad. And you're right, it's, you get to a point where you are stuck, you have failed to pay back family money, and now you don't have a business, neither do you have family. How messed up of a situation is that? Anyway, the other thing you said, Damali, thank you so much, was that the women are doing an amazing job. And I think, like you saw in Faith's presentation, it's quite evident. The only challenge now we have is that you have intimidated all the men. I don't know what we are going to do about that. We need a whole government policy on men must wake up also, because the women are taking over, literally. But it's a good problem, in my opinion. My good friend, Amos, over to you.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure sitting with the ladies here, and it's nice to see ladies taking on entrepreneurship, and yeah, it's inspiring for the young men to know that you have to take your place and work very hard. I also want to thank CK and the group for giving us, availing us space, UIA for inviting me. It's just because I'm a friend to UIA, normally I just don't have the time. It's just very difficult for me. When Simon called and said, you must, I said, all right, okay, you guys UIA are my friends, okay. I'll try. That means I have to cancel everything I want to do, you know. Yes, my name is Amos Wekesa. I'm the CEO of Great Lake Safaris. That's one of the leading safari companies in the country. Also CEO of Uganda Lodges. So under Uganda Lodges, we have Primate Lodge, Simba Safari Camp, Budonge Eco Lodge, and Elephant Plains. I think you've been to 2, yeah. 3, yeah, you have, yeah. But I also run MV Kazinga, which is probably one of Uganda's luxury boats. I was hoping that, I invested in it before COVID, and you know now how bad it was during COVID time. I was thinking that I would have expanded, grown, and engaged, because I was one of those guys who was very concerned about the fact that we stay next to, this country has more inland water bodies, lakes and rivers, compared to any country on the African continent. And they're all empty. If you look at the shores of Lake Victoria and go and compare it to Kisumu, compare it to Mwanza, you will appreciate the fact that we're sleeping. If you went to Goma now, I don't know how many of you have had Goma, you have boats of 1,300 people doing overnight trips, yeah, on the rivers. We are sleeping. We have gold around us, but we're doing nothing. But also, because of COVID, I diversified. I was given land by Uganda Investment Authority in Arapai, and we're putting up, we're almost done. We're putting up an agro-processing plant. It's about $4.7 million. But this I'm doing it in partnership with 2 other guys. So I'm about 47% shareholder, and another person's 48%, and another person 6%. So it's really, I'm now at a stage where I'm going into partnership, but I was forced by COVID to diversify because I realized that only thing I had was really tourism and a bit of property. And last 2 years have been a nightmare as far as investment business was concerned. But I must say that one of the reasons why we're probably still standing is because I have lived a life that allows business to grow. I've been very aggressive as an individual market. I push. A lot of us Ugandans fear to push our agendas. It's easier for MTN to wake up and push. Marcus was saying MTN uses about 30% of their budget, of their earnings, to tell us they exist. And Ugandans don't bother about that. They're not worried about that. But if CK wakes up and says, I'm pushing an agenda as a Ugandan, I'm marketing my entities, Uganda says, why are you marketing yourself? And the reality is that if I've never heard about you, I've never seen you, you actually don't exist. And you don't light a candle and put it under the bed just because your neighbor does not want to see light in your compound. Yeah? It doesn't make sense. So you have to have ability to push. And a lot of us fear the reactions of how people are going to look at our products. I might share my product and people are going to criticize me. But you know what? The reality is that people who have done better than you won't criticize you because they know what it means to do what you've done. It's the people who have not done what you have not done will be sitting there or who are not at your level that will criticize you for what you're doing. So don't fear to market and push up your agenda. But I would also like to say that it's nice to have these meetings, but we also need a bit of policymakers. We're so disconnected. I was just having a chat with Churchco, my friend Mutabazi there, and he was talking about how frustrating Uganda Revenue Authority is when you're importing anything. And I must say, I brought in a few containers of machinery. So we're going to be processing about 18 types of cereals or grains. We are going to be cleaning, drying, sorting. We're also bringing in things like these toners, color sorters. We are the first to buy the first technology for cleaning aflatoxins from grains, mainly maize, beans, whatever grains are there in Africa, not in East Africa. We're the first to buy the technology from Denmark as a business. But bringing in those containers, I can tell you that it was so frustrating. I kept thinking, if your business entirely depends on importing things in this country, where would you go? And I think we also need to engage the leaders. We have to be honest. I was just telling Mutabazi that yesterday I got a phone call bills from URA. 3 companies at a go. And I was telling them, I was just laughing. I was saying, guys, I even called them and I laughed. I said, guys, we have had 2 years of no business. And they tell me you owe us 166 million shillings. Then I looked at the paperwork. They said you owed us 1.548 billion shillings. But out of that, you paid and never paid 14 million shillings. And that 14 million shillings had a penalty of 66 in interest, 66 million, and it has, There are 2 charges. Now, which means I owed them 14 million shillings out of 1.5 billion I was supposed to pay. I paid 1.5 billion something, I had never paid 14 billion. And I told the guys, okay guys, we have just come out of COVID, we're investing. And you making me pay 144 million shillings in penalty out of maybe a mistake that happened a few years ago on 14 million shillings. It's crazy. And they're telling you you're going to close your account. I'm actually going to go to them after here. We need to engage people to understand. Maybe we also need to engage leadership and say, leadership. I told these guys, I have to market this country. I have to go and market my business, which also helps market the country myself. There's no budget towards marketing this country like we're seeing Rwanda or Kenya or Tanzania. It's not there. In December, I had to go in winter. I don't like going to the US in the winter. I don't like being to Europe in the winter. It's terrible. I also don't like their food. When I board a plane, I'm thinking bad weather. I'm thinking about food. You cannot eat a good mango, pineapple. You know what I'm talking about? When you're 48, you are very selective. I'm 48. It's tough, but I have to be there. Marketing. I am doing the marketing. I try to earn the money, but you're trying to push me down, as an individual. So these young people need that kind of protection. The other thing that we also need to do as a people is that Uganda is poor. In fact, what CK was talking about, you better go and run a pork joint in Nigeria. Makes a lot of sense. I have woken up many times and I've thought, my lifestyle, many of you know, my lifestyle is so cheap for me. I drive a 21-year-old car and I think it can take me another 10 years. I'm very good with maintaining what I have. I can put on one jean for a week. I've just built a house. You know what I'm talking about? To be honest, what wakes me up is a number of people, young people that I employed, the effects, the add-on positive effects of what I am doing. Suppliers. Recently I met a lawyer during COVID. He said, I had never known how your business related to me. I said, why? In Fort Portal. He said, my aunt used to supply the guy who supplies you tomatoes in one of your lodges. So she was surviving by supplying this one who supplies you. But now I have to support her financially because you have no business. That's what I'm talking about. So we're all interconnected. The other thing that we need to be pushing hard for is actually positioning this country. The reason why we are poor, the reason why we're struggling with lack of capital, is because we have not told the world how wonderful this country is. We have not marketed our weather, our food, our fertile soils, everything. We haven't. And if we did that, and I've always told guys that there's no single international or country, or the USAID or whatever, no country will ever give us money to market ourselves because we will be independent. That's a fact. If we marketed ourselves, we will have solved the issue of capital, issues of everything. So as people doing business, we must push the country to have an agenda to position this country to attract opportunities. And when we attract opportunities, we all survive. I don't know, Harmin, I think I'm done really. Thank you.
Okay, so I am here. Okay, now we are going to move to Q&A. I will pick, you will direct your question to the person you would like to answer it, and introduce yourself before you say anything. If you're going to speak about where you're from, please do, and then quickly ask your question. We will do this for the next 7 minutes. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I am Derek Mugabi. I'm a university student at Victoria University doing journalism and media studies, and my dream is to become the youngest venture capitalist in Uganda. We've been talking about investing, and one thing I know many times when people are asking questions, they already know the answer, but they need reaffirmation. But it's something like that I need also. We've been talking about investment, we've been talking about entrepreneurs and the businesses that fall out of market and all that stuff. But I'm thinking that Uganda has done less in investing in talent and skill that is appropriate. Many times the entrepreneurs actually fall or fail to scale or maybe sustain their businesses because they do not have the necessary skills. And I'm thinking that there should be, I've studied at the Innovation Village, I've done 3 courses with Upskill. And those 3 short courses have helped me more than my university degree. And I'm thinking that as investors, there should be a way we look at actually investing more in the right talent. And that talent is going to facilitate the sustainability of these entrepreneurs. And my question is, Mr. Amos, my big role model, the lady there, I actually met her at the mentorship class, which I also attended again to get skills. What is the necessity, or what is your take on the investment of appropriate skill and talent before we even give capital to entrepreneurs?
Okay, so I think this question goes to both Damali and Amos. So do we ask or do we answer at once?
I think let's answer at once.
Everybody asks, then we answer at once, or do we ask based on questions? Because we might forget. I don't know if Damali and Amos will remember the questions if it's 9 questions later. So maybe you answer him. You answer Derek's question if you have an answer for him. Although I think the best person to answer it would have been CK, but let's first hear what you have to say.
Thank you. I think I have a good answer too.
Okay, good.
So I thank you that you did, in fact, attend a mentorship session that I was part of. And to some extent, I do agree with you. So, for some reason, we do underestimate the value of vocational skills or vocational talent in Uganda. We overemphasize academics. We love the theory of it. We love the degrees. But a lot of countries, say in Germany, they actually take vocational skills very seriously. You may just go up to our equivalent of O level and then go try out a vocational skill. And if you like it, you stay in it. And if you don't, and you still want to go get your degree, you go get it. So a lot of people who are entrepreneurs in Germany don't even have degrees because the value is not the degree, it's not that piece of paper. The value to the country that you are is how you utilize your talent, how you create an economic activity out of your brain, basically. That's the value you are to a country. So we need to figure out a way to catalyze that, to leverage the brains, the intellectual capital that we do have, to leverage it without putting too much emphasis on a degree. Of course, we need a doctor with a degree. We need necessarily an entrepreneur with a degree. What we need from an entrepreneur is their skills, their talent, their creativity, their innovativeness. And then also their ability to run a business, their ability to market, their ability to communicate. That's it. That's all we need, really. So we need to figure out a way as an economy, as a country, as policy makers, everyone in this ecosystem, everyone really who cares about Uganda, we need to figure out a way to make sure that we emphasize talent, we emphasize skill, we emphasize practicality. How do you put what you know or the knowledge you have, the skill you have, how do you put it in practice? How do you apply it to make sure that it can actually do something for the country, can create employment, can create for yourself a job? So we need a little bit of a mentality set where even as parents, because I know a lot of parents who push their kids, get the degree, but you may have a kid who is actually more talented in something else. It shouldn't be, the first thing shouldn't be necessarily the degree. The first thing should be, how do I encourage this child to make use of that talent, to make money out of that talent? How do I do that? And there is a lot of knowledge that is available, especially to young people. You've grown up in an era where the availability of knowledge is immense. You have YouTube where you can literally learn anything on YouTube. Anything. You can learn how to do a business plan on YouTube. You can learn how to manage a cash flow on YouTube. You can learn everything on YouTube. You've grown up in that era where the availability of knowledge is just literally at your fingertips. So we also need to make sure that young people use the knowledge and information that is available around them to develop their talents, because also the young people need to know that you don't need necessarily a degree to be successful. What you need is how to catalyze your talent, your knowledge, and your innovativeness. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that sort of answers it. But to add a question to you, Damali, in the same line. So I do know that there has been a back and forth conversation on changing the academic spectrum of the country. I do not know how far it has reached, but so far we are still business as usual. What Amos studied and what is happening now, same, even though the world has completely changed, which is what was the conversation then. But the problem, I think, and my question to you is, I don't know how you think this can be resolved, is that the employers still ask for these very same qualifications, even though that degree may not necessarily be applicable, so to speak. And they know that what this person studied, yes, they studied business and we are a bank, but if it's an investment bank or a venture capitalist, is really what he studied in MOOBS going to help him run this investment wing? Probably not. Had he done a course that would have worked on it, would be better. So how do we change the mindset of the employers to stop also doing what the parents are doing, which is push for the same old trajectory?
Okay, I think it's multi-pronged in a way. So we need, as a society, to understand or start valuing talent and skills and creativity. So if the media, for example, started valuing, showcasing, actually one of the reasons why I do the bit of the ideation corner that people know of is that visibility I give to entrepreneurs. If we valued that, if the media, if all I saw on, or most of what I saw on NTB and UTV and everywhere was smart entrepreneurs who have done something very clever and they didn't necessarily need a degree to do it. If our kids grew up seeing that, Because that's what happens in these countries. You see where they talk about Mark Zuckerberg, and one thing they tell you is he dropped out of Harvard, right? So, and he's really, smart. But what we see on our TVs and our media is not necessarily the smart entrepreneurs. It's not someone who's made something out of nothing. It's not Faith who's created literally a business and employment out of thin air, out of literally her brain. We don't see that. So we need to see more of that. We need to value more of that. We need to showcase more of that. We need to make sure that people who are creating jobs, making a difference into people's lives by creating jobs, by creating an economic activity, creating a tax opportunity, those people should be the people we praise, should be the people we see, should be the people we talk to on panels, on TVs, so that our young people can grow up seeing those people and then they can emulate that. The parent, it may be far gone because it's difficult for you to convince your parent who is maybe 60 that I don't need a degree. You may have to prove it to them by doing something that you don't need a degree.
I don't think Faith told her folks, I'm going to pick plastics and make stuff out of it before she did. Amos, I happen to know your story very well, and I know that like Derek there, who wants to become the biggest venture capitalist in Uganda, you didn't have the time to go to hotel school. But here you are, paying over $1 billion in taxes in an industry you didn't study for officially. So your advice to Derek, who wants to become the biggest VC in Uganda, would be? It's on.
Yeah, I think I think one of the saddest things about Uganda is that any child between the age of 10 to 16 is probably the most wasted time of any child in this country. And I'm saying this because that's the age where kids just absorb skills. That's when they take in, things that are... And I like sometimes sharing stories. So I don't know how many of you follow me on Twitter or how many of you follow me on Facebook. I work with my own children because I'm thinking that if I raise a good child, I'm going to be raising a good citizen. That's what my thinking is. And the Jews, I read about the Jews. They say if your child is 13 years old and has no skill, you're potentially raising a thief. That's how they think, which is very true. And a lot of these people you hear, Bill Gates, whatever, if you went and read about them, you'll find by the age of 10, 12, they were either cleaning snow in the neighbors' homes, they were either distributing newspapers, they were doing cleaning of cups or plates in restaurants. In fact, last week my son was asking me, I have a 16-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter and 10-year, and all of them, including the 10-year-old, can cook. All of them can drive. All of them, two of them can, actually one of them is number 5 in Africa in motocross. The other is, now they all do at least 6 sports in school. One of them, my 16-year can mechanic, is at right now every weekend I can tell you part of his part-time job. I came home and he had gotten a license from Congo at 16. I don't know how he did it. But he drives tourists, picks them at 4 a.m. He has left home alone twice or thrice to go and pick tourists and drop them in their hotels and check them in. 16 years. He does that. So now the challenge is that you're going to expect someone who hasn't done these kind of things to actually start competing with that guy. So you as an individual, as children, start thinking in that direction. But for the question he asked, as Amos, I was not lucky to be born in a very good home. But if you're born in a good home, it's an added advantage. And I was brought up in a children's home. When I finished my A-levels and failed, I really decided that I'm going to learn. I had the opportunity to study, but I just didn't study. But I started teaching myself. I read 2 hours minimum every day. 2 hours minimum. But I've also skilled myself from having been a cleaner many years ago. My generation is there. She can tell I was in tourism from a cleaner and sweeper, became an office messenger like that. But I started teaching myself, when I read 2 hours, I read general knowledge. And those of you who follow me can understand that I have a bit of good understanding of general knowledge. But I also spend 30 minutes every day on tourism. That's something that I'm good at. That's something I do. You have to have that knowledge. But I've also practically been in the field. Even now, many of you who follow me would know that every 6 months, I will be traveling across the whole country to refresh my knowledge as a person. I also participate in the cooking. I participate in things that people do. But as a business, the reality is that we're also changing as employers. I know my brother Marcus was saying, yeah, we want the degrees. But if you go to Soroti today, The second guy in command of the plant we have in Arapai, Industrial Park of UIA, is a guy who came to my home from Nebi as a cleaner. And I took him back to primary school, to primary 7, and did S6. And S6 he got 17 points. And he wanted to go and do a theoretical course. I said, no, the reason why I took you back to school was because you're very practical. I took him to study electrics, whatever stuff. But when that guy explains to you that factory today, he's running this factory. In fact, the guy the Asian guy who's the general manager says, when I leave, this guy is going to be the general manager of this plant because he's so good. But it's because I just encouraged him. Even when I took him back to school, it was evening school. During the day, he was cleaning, sweeping, and doing everything in the home. And now, of course, it's a different story. And so as a business, we're also seeing tourism. Tourism has so many opportunities. In fact, I don't know if you just allow me a few more minutes. If we had one school that trains Ugandans to compete in the tourism space, we would have so much problem solved. And let me tell you why. If you go to the Middle East, Kenya trains about 70%, trains 100%. 70% are export. Uganda is one of the export markets. Kenya, in 2018, I was speaking in Nairobi, and I was the president and everybody, and I was saying, in every cruise ship in the world, there is one Filipino. And they said, now we're training, and we're going to look to make sure that there are 2 Kenyans in each cruise ship in the world. And the president started 2019. The president of Kenya himself, with Mohammed, the one who was leading Kenya Utalii College, they went to Italy to negotiate with the owners of ships and said, we have trained Kenyans and have now started taking over from Filipinos. And why, for example, cruise? A guy working in a cruise ship earns $2,000 per month and is on a ship for 6 months, has $12,000 non-spent on those 6 months, and starts again the same trip. And that is the reason why you see Philippines gets remittances from people in diaspora up to $60 billion a year. It's a thinking that we just lack. Even locally, as a business, we've decided, I don't know how many I've been seeing on my Facebook page, we're doing one of the first training cafe in Chibali National Park, where we're going to train S4, S6 dropouts. And we want you to leave that place and actually be able to work in a 5-star hotel. Because, one, private lodge is not extremely very cheap. I can tell you it's just expensive. It's $900 for you to sleep in a room one night, but it has a specific clientele. So the quality of service, and some of you have been following us, during COVID we have been improving for bouncing back. We never sat back and just complained. What we did was we invested more in the accommodations, but at the same time we invested more in training. So some of you, again, who have been following us on Facebook, you can see we brought in people from Kenya, Ugandans who are good in certain things, and also UK. Right now I have a UK group that's around training guys on making even things, high-level quality things like cocktails and everything like that. But to be honest, that again removes from the business person. The amount of investment we're doing in order just to train Ugandans, it's expensive. Now, if government did that part for us like Kenya Utalii does for Kenya and 36 other schools in Kenya, we wouldn't have to remove money from our pockets to start training again, removing from our profit and getting us, where we are now.
Derek, I hope your question has been answered. You know who to go to get your VC dream come true. Even if the university doesn't give it to you, you have the connections to make it happen. There was a question here.
There's a question here as well.
Okay. After her, then that gentleman. Then we'll move to the back.
Okay. Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is David. I am the founder of OmniGym. It's generally a health and fitness tech company. And why we started this is because over 42 million people in the world die from non-communicable diseases. That's obesity, hypertension, heart disease, and the like. And 85% of these are in low and medium income countries. This is generally Africa. So we're trying to work around it to make sure that we can get a solution that will enable people to use different gyms in different areas, be it in Uganda or abroad. So my questions are two, and they go to UIA as well as the panelists. So firstly, this system that UIA is trying to build, does it include things to do with company documents? Because if you're dealing with URA, it's a completely different story. I mean, if you're trying to get VAT approval, you have to actually pay someone to get VAT approval. I mean, you're actually paying someone so that the government can allow you to pay taxes. That's the situation that we're in. So as an entrepreneur, well, I'm not yet at the level of the gentleman who said that he had to pay 166 in fines, million, but as a small entrepreneur, 3 million spent in 1 week in getting company documents, of which more than 60% is not eligible, fees, is a lot of money. Because we're trying to actually charter a way forward and do innovations. That's the first thing. Then the connections are very important for us because some of us are doing B2B kind of system. So for UIA and also for the panelists, what is your advice on this kind of scenario? If you're doing B2B, what is needed, what is necessary for you to actually attract an entire company to trust your product, to trust your brand, even if you're just an entrepreneur, you're just an innovator? And for UIA, what is the advice you can give and the support that is being given in such a scenario to attract corporate societies, to attract even those that are abroad, but also within, for the B2B kind of entrepreneurs? Thank you.
Thank you, David. I think because majority of that question belongs to Mr. Joseph, I'll ask him go first. Let's pray Joseph to answer that question first.
Joseph says ladies first.
No, to answer his question on UIA. The question was about UIA. Oh, director. Okay.
Thank you very much. Peter Mremri is my name. I'm the Deputy Director, Business Development. Thank you for your question. I think I'll put it to two areas specifically. One is the agility and organization model that basically as an organization you adapt. Case in point is the gentleman that we see in front of us, Mr. Wekesa, to be able to absorb the shocks of COVID. Internally, you adapt and you accept to have that kind of model that will be flexible enough to absorb the shocks that you're in. But also, in your day-to-day, what are those clusters of engagements that you need to engage in terms of your taxation, in terms of your digitization? What are those aspects of your business that you require that can make sure that you sustain any kind of shocks that come along the way? At Uganda Investment Authority, we have initiated the one-stop center. The one-stop center service is now not just a walk-in center, but we want also to be online so that you are able to access these services digitally. We have confidence that as a one-stop shop, services including taxation that you mentioned, accessing licenses and incentives that give you kind of a way out in any of the sectors along all value chains, that will be a good starting point for any business. I want to encourage everyone to use the platform of Uganda Investment Authority to see how many ideas that you can pick in terms of our partnership. I'm very happy that also we have the local investors that are here, are participating. Those are also good starting points because we are in an environment where we share ideas, and it is important that you borrow ideas from those that have performed very well, that have thrived, and see how best you can borrow a leaf from that kind of engagement. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So, David, I think on your matter with regards to these two gentlemen here, if you see them before, their solutions are actually available, and most of them are available online. Unfortunately, there's no one here from URA to handle your matter, but on their front, they will help you on that aspect with what you are facing. So for the panelists, B2B, how do you help him close that gap? I don't know who would want to take on that question. Oh, sorry? Okay, yeah, please, okay.
It's exciting to be here. My name is Winnie Lawoko Olwe, and I am the Director for Domestic Investment. I think the gentleman raises a very important question, business to business. UIA is currently in the process of setting up a national SME portal. The portal is going to onboard SMEs and local investors. We talked about profiling. I think it was Jaffet, who talked about it, the issue of profiling. And that profiling is to look at your internal processes and a number of other things to authenticate you, to give us the confidence to link you to businesses. Now, a very important question is very much linked to what Amos said. And Amos, we go a long way. If you know where we came from, it's from sweeping and growing up. And I think really one of the things which he mentioned is you, the business, being able to remain agile, to know what the prerequisites for your business is. Allow me also to answer the URA question. To get a VAT number is free. And if you went into the portal of URA and went through the process of onboarding your business, you'll realize that it is a free service. Let's do a little bit more reading to understand that. But for the B2B sessions, eventually what the portal is going to be doing is, one, it's a portal which is going to allow for a platform access, that there are a number of service providers who will access the portal through an API, allow for business development services. But a critical component of that portal is going to be linkages. And when we talk about linkages, we're looking at linkages to markets, linkages to finance, linkages to similar businesses, B2B, B2C. The portal is going to also allow for traceability. I think one of the critical issues when you start looking at global acceptable practices, there is the issue of traceability. So the portal will link you up in such a way that when we profile you, you are geographically mapped, so we know where you are, and we can also trace that. So I think it's a number of things that this bounce back session is, watch out for the space. The bounce back session is not only today, we will be bringing in those issues. B2B requires you to understand your business, to understand the markets you want to reach, and to understand how you're going to get to that market. Is it through a virtual platform? Is it through face-to-face? But COVID has showed us that it should be digital. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You wanted to add very briefly?
Thank you so much, Winnie. The reality is that this generation in the room, the young guys, you have the world in your hands, just by the phone. You must start questioning yourself, how do I portray myself online? Number two, when you're dealing business, especially when you're starting out, even my level, which is not far, because I think I've just reached a stage of takeoff, because I have so many dreams that I have to achieve. But even at my level, I've discovered that people must first buy me as an individual before they buy the product. So you must position yourself as a product. The other thing that you need to do is make sure you are in meetings like this. I like my friend Mutabazi there. He does bugs and charges. And Mutabazi is everywhere where business is happening. And he will introduce himself. And I just like the lady in the room here. She makes tires. She makes so many things out of tires. Josephine. The moment I entered the room, she came and said, "This is what I do for a living." In 5 minutes, she had already pitched herself. So the thing is that make sure you position yourself right. For example, Facebook. All I have done is I share my knowledge. But in the sharing of knowledge, once a week, I post about primate lodges, Simba Safari Camp, and Obdongo or MV Kazinga. But the moment I post on MV Kazinga, the reservations office will tell me, Amos, the reality is that more bookings came in because today we could see the surge in calls that were coming in. The other thing is that when you market yourself, you must have a product that backs you. For example, he's been my client at Elephant Plains and Primate Lodge, and have so many people. They will tell you the food was good, the service was nice. So don't try to sell yourself. And then when the guy comes there are bed bugs in the bed. You know what I'm talking about? So make sure that as you market yourself, the product also matches what you're trying to portray as an individual.
Okay, thank you. Now, yes, your question.
Thank you.
My name is Josephine Nakafero. I'm a media personality, the creative designer and CEO of Jose House of Creations, a sustainable brand that upcycles, like my brother Amos mentioned. I upcycle car tires, used car tires. I turn them into poof seats, chairs, and coffee tables. Even clothes, the old clothes like the denim, jeans, I cut them and make new bags, clothes, and other items out of them. My question goes to you, my sister Faith. You're sustainable in business, right? Reform Africa is a social business. And one of the points that Marcos mentioned is that there are so many businesses that do not live to see their third birthdays. And most of those are social enterprises. As a social entrepreneur, how have you been able to sustain your brand, to see to it that you're still living, and yet many of those that really do not live to see their birthdays are the social enterprises, and yet there are many mushrooming in Uganda? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josephine. I also had something short to share for the previous question. So what has worked for Reform Africa? We've done both B2C, but we are now moving more to B2B. But it's more of sharing your stories. Most times as entrepreneurs, we spend a lot of time sharing our solutions, yet our stories are amazing, you know? People are looking out there for stories and for problems that we're trying to solve. So that is what has worked well for Reform Africa. And why we've been able, this year we're making 4 years in business. We began right before COVID, and during COVID is actually when we made more sales. So being able to innovate, our products are bought more. We have school bags. Schools were closed for close to a year. We also have travel bags, and these are people, our customers are tourists and experts. And during COVID times is when like everyone was repatriated out of Uganda. So we stayed 3 months not making money and realized COVID is not ending. That is how we innovated and introduced pegs. Everyone was spending time home, washing clothes, obviously, so we have the pegs. We also made planters. We sold quite a lot during COVID. We also made face shields at the beginning of COVID. But being able to understand the situation you're in and understanding the market, because DHL post office was still shipping. So we instead started to look at international shops in Germany, in the US, and in the Netherlands that retail our products, and would send, 20, 50 kgs per month to different customers and then advertise. So that is how we were able to tap into the international markets, and that's how we're able to move from B2C now to B2B. And so being able to understand the situation that you're in and also understanding the market that you're in, and as entrepreneurs, pivoting every time, you have to pivot at any given time. There's COVID, there's lockdown, truck drivers were still able to move around. So we're still able to transport our products or jump on a truck and still be able to deliver to DHL, and they fly it out.
Answered? Fantastic. One of the biggest lessons over there, that gentleman, I think. One of the biggest lessons in this fast-moving world is we must be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn. If you're incapable of doing that, this will be a tough time to be alive as an entrepreneur. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm Patson Vareire, founding editor of the Informa Uganda. It's an online publication. I've been in the media for about 15 years, for having worked in the Daily Monitor and the New Vision, based up country. Be precise, in Kanungu. I've been triggered by Mr. Amos's presentation about tourism vis-a-vis investment. Promoting Uganda starts with yourself, myself. When we are marketing Uganda, what enterprise selection have we done in doing that? For example, a simple question. How many of you have tracked gorilla in Uganda? Just be sincere. 3 hands. Almost, you see. Now, if you have lived in Uganda for these years and you have not tracked gorilla in Bwindi, that is my Kanungu, and you think of promoting Uganda, how will you encourage others to do it? And you wait for people to come from Australia to come and do it. Now, when you talk of linkages, Faith, why can't we have your bags with the gorilla face on it? So and it is already done, made in Uganda. So that when it reaches Denmark, Netherlands, it shows that you can only come to Uganda, track gorilla. If I think of Rwanda and Congo, lastly, we are pushing for the East African integration. But the policies in the countries, in the different countries, are different. And we are talking of integration. Will it happen? Will it work when the policies are different? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Amos? That question was to Amos, correct?
Yeah, I think he's right. We all need to see our country. The reality is that one of the reasons why we don't market it is because we don't know it. One of the reasons we are angry about ourselves is because we judge Uganda purely based on the border guy who makes noise, the politician we don't like. But to be honest, this is one of the most beautiful countries that you'll ever find in the world, and would probably be one of the richest if we just even used weather alone, and I've spoken about that before. But I think let me just talk about the East African community thing. The thing is that there is a very big disconnect between the policymakers in many ways and normal guys like me and you. The policymakers go and make decisions there without necessarily understanding what's on the ground. If you look at our imbalances, look at Uganda. We don't own banks, you don't own insurance, you don't own construction, you don't own serious stuff. As Ugandans ourselves. So our biggest bank in Uganda is Stanbic Bank, and it can only be number 10 in Kenya. That does sink in our heads properly. It can only be number 10 in Kenya. So the reality is that as the policymakers are deciding on us integrating, they are not necessarily preparing the population and telling them this is where the opportunities are. And I think as a people we need to be pushing for that agenda. Recently I was telling a friend of mine, I was saying, it's going to sound a bit political, but I saw the president of Uganda going to Central Republic of, But I saw the president of Kenya to go to Central Republic. Our president is one of the most respected out there. He's a very eloquent speaker. But the reality is that the Kenyan president was going with a delegation of businessmen to Central Republic. The same president of Kenya was going with a delegation of business people to Congo. Now, Equity Bank has now bought the biggest bank in Congo, is going to be running the biggest bank in Congo, owned by Kenyans, that's for your information. But when our guys go there, I think they don't have enough or good advisors. That's why I think Uganda Investment Authority must come in. We are missing one of the biggest lost opportunities for the young people, business people in this country is actually the president. When he goes, he shouldn't go with another politician. He should be taking people who are going to do business, positioning Ugandans ready to compete. So if we don't think in that direction, we will always be just celebrating things that don't make sense.
Thank you very much. Yes?
If I may add to that, because I'm also a trade expert. So part of the things that the East African community has kind of done is the single tourist visa, which allows for tourists to move between Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, and Tanzania. And since it appears that the Democratic Republic of Congo is going to join the East African community soon, it's imperative that the young people, first of all, know this information. We know about it. Entrepreneurs know about it. Amos has made a very important point where we have, in a way, wonderful policymakers who are looking for bilateral trade negotiations, bilateral trade agreements, but they miss that component. When you look at what happened with South Sudan, we went into South Sudan, helped to stabilize it, it's our neighbor, and we were trading with it, but what we were trading with South Sudan is different from what Kenya was trading with South Sudan. And yet, if you look at what Uganda put in to make sure South Sudan is stable, it's way more, it's immense. But, when Kenya went there with banks, with, factories, or manufactured stuff, but we went there with just truck drivers only, and it's fine. That that can be also be our entry point, but we need to look bigger. And we need to also be careful that now that the DRC is going to join the East African community, what are we taking to DRC? How are we ensuring that we don't make the same mistakes that we did in South Sudan? How are we ensuring that our, yes, the Mokwanos, or the manufacturers in Uganda can actually tap into that? The only way to do that is to ensure that they are part of the conversations as Uganda's policymakers and technocrats negotiate these discussions or start even these conversations. We have to make sure that the private sector and the government are working in tandem, because the government can negotiate a trade agreement, but if the private sector is not part of that discussion, it means that the private sector, first of all, doesn't know a potential market is coming up. The private sector doesn't therefore make entry early, because you have to make entry early. You need to understand DRC is Francophone, they speak French. How complex is the environment? Do I need to join venture with someone in DRC, with a company in DRC for me to work with them? Can I do e-commerce with them? But all those questions you should ask 2 years prior to the actual signing of the agreement, not after the signing of the agreement. And that's what other countries are doing. They can see Democratic Republic of Congo is going to join the ESC, it's pending, and they've already started entering the DRC with their business community, with the private sector. They're not entering the DRC with just the technocrats who are not business people. They're entering the DRC with the private sector, and that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that public-private dialogue and discussion and everything the government does, they have to make sure the private sector voice is there. And private sector voice in terms of the actual people, the actual entrepreneurs, the actual business people, not, just a voice.
Technocrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. So, if you have any questions for these three panelists, my request is that you write them down. They are still here. Please see them, ask the question directly to them, but we have 8 other speakers, and we only have an hour and 40 minutes left in this room. So, in the interest of time, I'm going to ask them to leave so that we can ask others to come. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for those insightful things. And now we move on to our next group of panelists, and I'll ask them to please make their way very quickly. From RT Farms, Mr. Teddy. I want to make sure I get your name right. Is it Rouge or Rouge? Oh, right, nice. Good guess. From Charge KO, my good friend Geoffrey Mtabazi, thank you so much. And from Avoda Group, Mr. Jun Shiomitsu. I hope I pronounced that right. Ah, super. Thank you very much. So, I have been told that you all have presentations. Okay, so I will start in the order I introduced you. RT Farms, you can take over. You have 7 minutes. The rest of you, you can watch the monitor down here. You can come and do your presentation here. Thanks. Good morning.
Good morning. So I have a unique problem in that I'm given 7 minutes to speak to you, but it usually takes me like 30 minutes to introduce myself. So let's see how this goes. So my name is Teddy Rouge. I am the founder of Raintree Farms. We are based in Masindi, Uganda. I'm also the founder of Hive Collab, which is another space for hosting entrepreneurs. So we've been in the space of promoting and creating a space where entrepreneurs can actually thrive. So it's actually really good to have this gathering with the Uganda Investment Authority to try to accelerate that and to work with young entrepreneurs to build a much more robust ecosystem. So what you are seeing is a promotional video for Raintree Farms. We did a couple of years ago. This was before COVID hit. Agriculture is really difficult in the country. I think we've been talking about stats and figures, etc. Allow me to add one more. Agriculture employs about 75% of our workforce, and yet it only contributes about 22% to our GDP. Meaning there's a massive gap between what we're doing and the value that it's actually giving to the country, meaning that all of our efforts in agriculture are low value outputs. What we need to do is to scale that up into high value outputs. Raintree Farms grows and specializes in value added processing of moringa. Moringa is a superfood that allows for a wide variety of uses, both in the beauty sector as well as nutritional. It's mostly known for the nutrition side of the business. What you're seeing there is our sustainable processing facility in Masindi, in a small village where we are powered mainly by solar, and actually about mainly by solar, because anytime you invite umeme to your office gathering, they tend to mess things up. So we run firstly by solar mainly. We have a 50 kilowatt installation there. We have community engagement with the school children. We make sure that from a nutrition perspective, at least in their porridge every day, they receive some of our moringa powder. So that's just one of the opportunities that we actually have in agriculture, is this ability to actually create value both in our communities but also for the country. But in as much as we love, as someone like me in agriculture loves to do that, I question why I have to constantly on a daily basis fight with my government to do something good for my country. I don't understand why it's not easier to do agriculture, value addition and export. I don't understand why it's a fight with the government that you should be working alongside to help you to scale. One of the reasons that I actually literally moved from Kampala to the village is to bring value to that community. We have too many young people selling their inheritance to come and sleep on a street corner in Kampala on a motorbike. We were talking earlier about education. Why are we in our education system not teaching the value of property, the value of acreage? If you have acreage, you are rich. If you sell it and buy a motorcycle, how do we not know the difference between hard assets and depreciating assets? Why are we not pushing that value in our communities to actually be able to say, let's build wealth from what we have? We keep talking about how beautiful Uganda is and how it can feed the world. But yet, us as Ugandans play a very small part in manufacturing in the agriculture space. Why? Because it's owned by foreigners. Right? That value goes to foreigners who come in here to take advantage of those. And then people like me and people like everyone else, we struggle just to make it in our own country. I'm here to stand to give praise to UIA for helping bridge that divide between government policy and entrepreneurs. Because then entrepreneurs look like someone like me, who has gone through all of that process to bring value at the last mile of development. Because when we think about investment, we think about Kampala, we think about the main cities, we don't think about the village. In each of my products, where that product is manufactured is the address at that village. It's not an address in Kampala, it's an address at that village. And we produce high quality products that we export because we want to also market Uganda. Because at the back of that box, of that product, will be an address to our village. To actually be able to say, we have created this product. It's not simply a product we can sell in Uganda. It's a product that can actually stand up to any international standard on any shelf in the world. That is exporting value to the rest of the world. That is how you market your country. Marketing our country is not simply about going and export, asking for foreign currency to come in as tourism. But we also have to look up, what are we exporting as a country? Is it value-added products which bring in higher profitability, or is it low-margin commodities that we're in love with exporting? We were talking earlier about pivoting. COVID showed us that we needed to be very, very flexible and nimble in how we run our businesses. Before COVID, we were mostly a commodity export business. We were exporting moringa powder. But what do you do when the rest of the world shuts down? How do you pay your farmers? How do you pay your employees? How do you make that happen? So we had to pivot in such a way that we were like, okay, our business model is a bit broken and it cannot handle something like this. We need to reinvent the way we are doing agriculture and really go after that value. So one thing that we did was look at the kind of crop that we are actually creating and looked at the kind of products that we're able to make. Because if we're exporting all of these commodities, they're going to someone who's adding more value to our products than we are. Why is that? Because we have a mentality that we can't create products that are good enough to sit on international shelves. Well, I'm here to tell you that we actually can. If in the back, if you can please, I think Kara, I think I sent some of the pictures of the products. If you can please put those up as I speak. I happen to have a background in communication design and advertising, meaning that I understand what customers and consumers want. And what they want is to feel respected and valued when you sell them a product. What I find in the way we package Uganda and the products that are made here is we make things that are cheap. We make it just good enough. The products that I sell, you can go to any market and you will find moringa oil in a Renzori bottle. And I wonder, why is that so difficult to actually create and look at the value that you create? The products that you create, and be proud of that and make sure that that is the representation of the country. I won't litigate the results of the Dubai Expo. I think we've all had of that drama and what went on there. And I wonder, how is it that we have so many entrepreneurs that are creating amazing things, and yet when it comes to representing ourselves at the international level, we do such a poor job of it? I think we need to look at our patriotism and what it means to be patriotic in this country, in what it is that you're executing. It starts with you. We talked about, yes, it starts with you. Have you toured the country? Do you understand the country? Do you understand the position we are in as entrepreneurs? I worry. I really worry about the numbers we share with the public about this country and the entrepreneurial landscape that we are in. I worry that we sit around and talk about 90% of the businesses that get started don't survive the third year. But we don't talk about the solutions that we are creating to make sure that that number comes down to under 10%. I worry that we celebrate that we are the world's most entrepreneurial country, but not a single one of our companies is a unicorn. Not a single one of our companies has exited. Not a single one of our companies has, a large enough employee base. We talk about all of those companies getting to 3 employees. How do you get that if you can't get to your 3rd birthday? We talked earlier about the 2 of the F's that are required to finance a business. But I was waiting for everybody to talk about the 3rd F, because that stage of fundraising, yes, it's your friends and family, but the 3rd most important one for your growth and your net growth is to convince a fool to give you money. If you're able to convince a fool with your idea to actually write a check for your business, you are already on your way to attracting additional financing for your business to actually get done. When you run out of friends and when you run out of a family, you have nothing but fools, and you have to be strong enough to actually be able to say, I can convince one fool to write me a check for this business to grow. Yes, funding is the fuel that our businesses need. But unfortunately, as a country, our entrepreneurship is such a stage that we have very difficult times getting to that next stage. It's about talent, it's about preparedness, it's about the business environment that is needed for easy investments to actually come in and be established and be so that business can continue to grow. When entrepreneurs are fighting just to open a bank account and it takes days and days of repeated processes, ladies and gentlemen, I think here's another stat. I think we're under 20% forest coverage in the country right now. And most people say, well, that's logging, et cetera, but I hazard that a lot of that deforestation goes into banks because of all the paperwork we have to file just to open a bank account. True story. I had an account, 2 accounts at Absa Bank. In order to open a third one, I had to go through the entire process again, yet they already have my documents from 2 other business accounts. Why do I need to go through the process of getting an introductory? What are we doing with introductory letters in 2022? Why? I have to go to my LC1. What is URSB for? Where is the interoperability of all of these systems to allow all of us to actually have a better functioning business environment to where we can actually focus on our businesses, not wasting our energy fighting our ecosystem? Let us create value for the country. From a government perspective, from a UAA perspective, the priority should be removing the barriers. The priority should be removing any hindrances to us growing our businesses, but we are in love with killing the calf as it's fattening, as opposed to waiting until it actually grows up. Anytime an ecosystem is growing, here is government, here are some taxes you need to pay, here is this regulation you need to do. And I'm very vocal about these things on Twitter, and people say that I'm, causing trouble. No. It's because I love my country and I want it to function better, because I know we can do better. We have the potential to do better. But every opportunity that I see that we actually see, we trip all over ourselves. We pull out guns and shoot our feet instead of actually looking at these opportunities and say, how many companies can we grow? We need to stop going to, all of these countries and singing about our entrepreneurial spirit and 30% of this or that, and actually say how many companies in Uganda are actually expanding to other countries. We are more in love with celebrating other companies coming into Uganda as opposed to Ugandan entities being celebrated for going abroad. Well, if you're not going to do it, then I'm going to do it myself. I'm here to tell you, as of January, Raintree Farms officially opened in the United States. Because we want our products to go from garden directly to the shelf. We don't want to export low commodities to our customers in the US who will build 90% of the value of what you're exporting. We want to own all of that value. Can I get a government that can help me do that, as opposed to fighting me every step of the way? Recently, I thank UIA for helping me with an import issue. I think you also have the same issue on importation and exportation. I thank them greatly because I had an issue with customs and importation, where in agriculture, a lot of the import products for agricultural processing value addition, there's procedures for actually you importing them tax-free. So when us as a company is struggling just to climb out of COVID, and then you import this machinery that is supposed to help your agriculture startup to actually survive so that you can bring value to farmers, you can bring values to employees at the last mile, and you can actually contribute to the GDP, and you run into customs at URA that says no, you have to pay 150% on the import tax of this thing because some of the components have plastic in it, and we don't have a provision for allowing you to import it for free. I have products sitting in customs because we can't pay for them, because the cost of importing that product is now 3 times the value of it. But we get no relief. We have amazing opportunity in this country. Amazing opportunity. Right now, if you look at the technology landscape, which is something I also play in, if you look across Africa, billions is being raised in technology startups. But when you look and compare, where is Uganda in that investment landscape? While Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt are raising billions, we are sitting at 35 million. Why? In terms of investment, why? We're the biggest collection of entrepreneurs, and yet we're not attracting the kind of capital. I think we need to think bigger. We need to think wider. And we need to make it possible for individuals like me, individuals like him, Amos, Wakesa, and all of the other entrepreneurs in this room to build companies that this country can be proud of. I could talk all day, but we have a lot of work to do. But I thank UIA for its efforts in representing young entrepreneurs in Uganda who are actually going to build the future of this country. Thank you very much for your time.
At least he was clear that it couldn't take 7 minutes, and we now hear why. A lot of things had to be said, and we're glad he has said them. So, well done. I think the people in the stakeholders with regards to your challenges have listened. We hope it gets to the powers that be, and your challenges are not unique to you, sir. They are to almost every other investor in this nation. I would now like to call Charge KO to please come and give his presentation.
Hello everyone. My name is Mutabazi Geoffrey from ChargeCo. Don't know if my presentation is on. Okay, so one of the things that got me thinking while preparing for this presentation was where I actually started. So when I started ChargeCo, it was really because I faced the problem of charging my phone, like most of you do. And it was a really unique situation because I was at that time what you'd call a power user of my phone, because I used to use so many tech services using Uber. I was actually, I think, one of the first customers of Safe Border in 2016, when there was still actually a call center, not an app. And what COVID actually did is it created millions of power users, actually billions of power users of devices. How? So before COVID, we start this business. I'm charging phones at events, nyege nyege, blankets and wine, the goat races. And it was going really well, I would say. We were growing. We had partnered with all the large event organizers, working at all the large events in Uganda. And at the end of the year, we were like, you know what? Me and James, my partner, I think he's somewhere in the room, we sit and say, you know what? This thing is actually a good business. Let's scale up. Let's go into restaurants. So January, we make an investment plan. We start raising capital. In December, we're looking to close about $100,000 of revenue, of investment to scale up this business. Put a few of the charging stations you're seeing on the screen in restaurants, hospitality, pretty much, because when people are sitting in restaurants, they need to charge. So we design the hardware, we do everything, and we talk to our manufacturers. We're like, okay, guys, we need to manufacture. Then they tell us, you know, there's this Chinese New Year thing coming up. You might have to send us your designs early enough so you can start manufacturing. If not, you can send them after the Chinese New Year. So if all of you are following Chinese New Year, you know that's when things went, I would say, south. And here we are. We're heavily, dependent on events. Events have closed. My partner, James, is, also heavily dependent on events. Events have closed, so we're out of cash. We go back to zero. First thing I did, I was like, let me be humble, move into a very small house. Midway the lockdown there, I said, let me be humble, let me move back home. So I can say we suffered, but we persevered. And the one thing we kept on doing during this time was thinking about how to bounce back. Because what was happening in the background was this. A few things were happening. People were increasingly using their phones. Everyone was paying for stuff using mobile payments. Government even did something unprecedented that we've never seen. They pushed guys to go online. 8 months before they were putting taxes. So, we got a lot of digital users, and I think mobile phone penetration grew from about 21 million to 29 million, coming up on 30 million now. Almost the whole country. My 8-year-old niece has a phone. It's that bad. It's that good. So everyone shifted online. Second thing, people started working from home. And when you're working from home, you know what happens when power goes off. And your router is off, your phone is off, you can't continue work, right? Your laptop is down. That's happening. And we're observing all these trends. We're saying, this is really sweet. Thirdly, people started saying, scientists told us at the start of this thing that, man, this is actually serious. And we're like, wow, Ebola has happened, like lots of things have happened. We'll go through this. 3 months, we'll be back. We didn't listen to the scientists. And scientists before had told us that climate change is a real crisis. Guys were like, we need to start recognizing scientists. Museveni himself sang that song so many times. We need to pay our scientists. I don't know what's happening with that, but I think there was a national discourse or even a global discourse on listening to scientific, advice. And what science was saying is, besides COVID, climate change is an actual crisis. That we cannot social distance ourselves out of climate change. We cannot vaccinate ourselves out of climate change. We have to mitigate it. And guess what happened? We went back to the drawing board, and with a bit of support, we built a new suite of products. And we said, we're going to position ourselves for recovery. And that's it. November, December, we start introducing these products one by one. We introduced a new line of power banks. We realized that during COVID, we actually did a lot of user interviews and talked to people. And we noticed that people just need enough charge for the day. And we said, how can we develop a power bank that is enough for a day? That gives you that emergency charge and is not bulky to carry around. And then on the other side, there were a lot of people who were trying to get online in rural areas. And they can't because they have to walk 5 kilometers away to get to a charging point. And we said, how about if we created a power bank that is good enough for a person in town, but is also good enough for a person in the village who has no electricity? And guess what happened? We introduced 50 of these bad boys in Mbarara and Bushenyi, and it was amazing. People are sharing these power banks. One person who has electricity has extra power banks, and anyone who has these power banks in the community brings it to them, pays the same money they would have paid 5 kilometers away, 500 shillings, and gets a fully charged one in less than a minute. And this has been realization after realization. We kept on just thinking, how do we serve customers better? And talking to customers, despite the pandemic, despite the fact that things were going crazy out there, we were thinking, how do we bounce back and how do we enable people stay connected and, stay digital after the pandemic? The second thing is really for the people who are working from home. Most people who are working from home live in rented houses. Unless you're rich and you can afford to actually, build your own house and a comfortable one at that, you still have the problem of umeme. And an inverter will cost you upwards of 3 million. So we said, you know what? Let's do an inverter for the normal person. And power never goes off for a day, rarely. But it's mostly 3 hours, 2 hours. So we built or designed a power bank for the home or a power station. And this was also amazing for guys who are traveling, amazing for guys who are working from home. Lastly, we knew that everyone was using delivery. Everyone was ordering for stuff from home. But with the fuel prices currently, in crazy numbers that I won't even mention globally, we knew that recovery for the economy is going to be very hard if we are moving goods and services and people at those costs. Commodities have already started going up because of transport costs. So we said, how do we move goods? And later on, how do we move people? Almost 70% of people in Kampala walk home, not because they can't afford public transportation, but because it is not optimized to demand. So instead of waiting for 2 hours at a stage, you'd rather walk. But it's not that they don't have money. So we built a bike that is built for purpose, for our same exact needs. For a guy delivering goods from, a nearby duka to your home. And we made it electric so that you're able to do that without using a lot of effort, so you can work longer hours. So you can have just a few delivery guys pushing so many deliveries, moving things. And at the end of the day, of course, our goal is to go for people who are going home and going to work. The worst thing you could ever do is basically have to ride a bicycle home after a long day at work. And we're looking at, of course, how do we do things that basically enable people to move goods, to communicate, and eventually to develop the economy. I'll end with a very simple statistic. For an industrial revolution to happen, you need 3 things to converge. You need new forms of transportation, you need new forms of communication, and you need new forms of energy to power that transportation and the communication. We're playing in all these 3 fields because we know that if we power mobility, if we power communication, we can essentially power a new economic revolution in Africa. And I think this is what we've been literally building up all this time. And I would say, I think because of all that work, and because of, most importantly, support from UIA, I don't know if Simon is somewhere here. Simon was really amazing. Even before the pandemic, I was walking up to UIA. We sit for 2 hours, and he's telling me, how about if you think about this? Talk to this person. Get in touch with this person. Do this, do that. And it was really, really helpful to have someone who can listen to you in a time when you think you don't have a business anymore. I'll tell you, in between that time, I ran out of fuel and I had to go back and get a job. But during all that time, there were a few people that were keeping businesses alive, keeping the hope of entrepreneurs alive. People like CK, people like James Biaru, people like UIA, this has been, I think, bouncing back has been a story of how do we work together and how do we support each other. I don't think we can bounce back alone. We have to do it as a collective. If one sector is bouncing back properly and we're doing really well, and the other isn't, and everyone else is lagging behind, then it's a problem. And I think it's been a theme across all the presentations we've seen here, that there's no unity. While UIA and a few people are doing really well, some other guys just don't get it. And those guys are now dragging the whole lot back. So if UIA doesn't get with the program, you know, and UIA is doing well, and URSB is improving, and internal affairs is improving, then you have an unbalanced thing. It will take you still almost the same time as if all these guys were inefficient. So it doesn't make